Happy Wednesday, friends, and welcome back to Aquarius Behavior, a Best Friends podcast. I'm your co-host, Morgan.
And I'm your co-host, Samantha.
We invite you to hang out with us each Wednesday to take in some chaotic storytelling, low-key learning, and high-quality audio. That's the ABPOD promise.
That's right.
Well, Samantha, welcome to another Wednesday.
Oh, happy Wednesday, everyone. Here we are. We are rocking in the pod. Thrilled to be here. We just did some holiday season energy. We're coming off the cusp of that. It's the brink right between where it's not quite the new year, but we're done with a lot of the holiday obligations. So excited to be back and podcasting with my bestie.
Ooh. Yes, and this is the recording for our upcoming Wednesday episode, which is December 28th, right? Yes, but we are recording this on Boxing Day, so happy Boxing Day.
Happy Boxing Day, everyone. And also happy in the future when you're listening to this.
Yes. Woo. Yeah, we do not record live, so if there was ever a question, that's not happening. No.
We love you guys so much that we have to batch all of our feelings into a linear hour to 4 hours of love and excitement in the pod or wherever we're recording. But we also have our mind to the future, as if our voices are coming to you on the day that they actually are speaking to you in your ears, as if we were speaking to you live.
It's like we're a real podcast. We're professionals.
Professionally.
Whoa.
Secretly behind the scenesing, but it's like we definitely are doing this live and talking right to you. XOXO. Thank you to our beautiful listeners. I know that we're going to be chatting a little bit more about that, but if you're one of the elite group of people who are listening to this within just a few weeks of these coming out, thank you. We're speaking directly to you.
Welcome.
Thank you for turning us on and giving our voices a place to hang out for about an hour in your ear.
So, Sam, what is your update for today? Opening ceremonies.
Oh my
please.
goodness. Opening ceremonies.
What's going on?
Mentally lighting the incense. This is a story. This is a story that I've been saving for a week or two now because it was one of the loveliest, most soft moments for Eric and I after you and I went on an adventure. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we looked at each other and said, uh-oh. I think that we have to do Christmas shopping out in the world. And we went to one of the malls in our area, and it turned out that day was the candle sale at Bath & Body Works.
Yes.
And so
everyone else was there?
Everyone else was there, but it had been so long since I went into a store and smelled candles, and we did that for probably 2 hours. But the part that really gave me joy was a day or two later, after I came home with my giant bag of Bath & Body Works candles, I had Eric smell each of them and tell me where they should go in our home and which ones we're giving as gifts. So I have pictures of him just softly sniffing some of the candles and really being thoughtful, holding both to his nose and just saying, this smells like this from my past, or ooh, this smells like candy. And it was just one of the softest, because usually he's an Aries tornado. Usually he is just going 1,000%. He said something the other day, 1,000%, 100,000% of the time, something like that. I'll get that quote from him in the future, but
that is accurate.
It was really nice to just sit and smell candles for a while. It's a little bit of the folding scarves energy where it's just like we're all taking a break from our time and we're smelling candles. And for me, I hadn't done a candle sale for so long, and so it just felt a little bit special to get some new smells in our home, shake up the energy. Sometimes it's like, okay, I don't need to completely rearrange my home or completely clean out my closet. Sometimes I just need a new candle. And so I think that was a lot of what we were identifying over the last couple days. And so for Christmas, Eric, turns out I learned something about my fiance. He loves the smell of spruces and fir trees and Christmas trees. So it was really fun to learn that thing. We're celebrating our 6-year anniversary tomorrow, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
And it was just like, oh, how did I not know that you were so passionate? He was very passionate about the fresh balsam ones and just, 3-wick candles are the way to go. And it was just a lovely time with my fiance, an unexpected quiet moment in our home. And I appreciated that. So that was some nice calm before we really jumped into the weekend of all the things.
Yeah. Well, and I know you guys have a fake tree.
We do.
We both, you and I both, like we don't do real trees in our home. It seems so romantic, but I'm just not personally equipped in my life to care for a live tree.
Not allowed.
So maybe someday I'll try it, but that's not who I am right now. And so, but that's so nice when you get a candle in there with that scent. And so you get the illusion of this classic Christmas without any of the mess.
I've had a real tree before, and I didn't know that you had to water it. I didn't know that was part of the tree's journey. And so a week or two in, my first one, I was very in early 20s. And I'm going to get a live tree. Had no idea. And then the mess of not only taking everything down, but then getting the tree out of our home was laughable. So if you have space in your life and remember to water your tree, live trees are so wonderful. But for me, we're going to get a candle. We're going to light that baby up, put it near. But remember, fire safety on ABPOD.
Fire safety.
Really important. One of our top of the list things that we're passionate about. So appropriate distance away from the tree and all of the other Christmas accoutrements that are covering that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Fire safety as air signs who are opposite of the fire element. We are very conscious of fire, where it is. Yes. Fire safety, everybody.
Fire safety. How is it contained? What's the backup plan? Ugh. I'm going to take a deep breath because I'm saving a story for you for next week of some more really good chaos energy.
Ooh, yeah.
But that was my soft time with my fiance. It was lovely. Yep. And now we pretend like we have a real tree in our home.
Lovely.
Gorgeous.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Tell me about your things.
Okay, so my update is also Christmas related because we just had Christmas.
We just did that.
So my Christmas looked a little bit different. We stayed home on Christmas Day and my fiance and I had a pajama day. We played some new board games. Ooh. And so that's what I want to share with you today because I love board games.
Yeah!
So let's see, we've got 2 new board games. So for Christmas / also my birthday, because we're arriving there too, I received a new favorite game of mine called Tiny Towns. And it also has 2 expansions. So we played this game. We played with one of the expansions. I still have to play with the other one. So the 2 expansions, one is Villagers and one is Fortune. So Tiny Towns, it reminds me a little bit of, if Settlers of Catan and Tetris had a baby, it would be Tiny Towns. And so everybody has a grid and there are resources, which are little colored cubes. There's 5 of them. And so each round, everybody takes a turn and they draw a resource. So when you call a resource to draw, all the other players, everyone else has to pick that same resource and place it on their grid. So you're placing these little resources on your grid, and every building in the town is made up of a pattern of resources. Okay. And so you're specifically building patterns on your grid. And when you complete that pattern, you get to then place a building on your grid in one of those spots that was occupying a resource. So that's where the Tetris comes in, where you are strategically placing these resource cubes so that you can build a town. But then you're also having buildings in there. And so you run out of room.
Constraints.
Yes.
There's some ways to kind of block other players to...
Oh, no, you're on your own grid.
You're on your own grid. Okay.
Yep. Each player has their own grid.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm back in. I was imagining a big board game. Missed that part as I was envisioning the cute little tiny pieces. Okay, great. So everyone has their own grid.
Yeah, you're on your own grid. You're building your own town.
I get it.
But the challenge is that every round, every player has to pick the same resource.
So you're just what you got.
I may pick a blue glass resource, and that forces you to also choose a blue glass resource, but maybe you didn't need a blue glass in your town. And so now you have to think of, well, where am I going to put this? Or do I have to change my strategy? So yeah, there's ways in the game to, there's extra rules and stuff, but that's just the base of the game. And so my sister-in-law introduced this game to me, and she knows it's one of my favorites. And so every time we have a family gathering, she always brings it. And I'm one of the only people, apart from her and that family, who like this game.
You see it and it's like, yes!
And so
get it out!
Yeah, so usually it's the game that we'll play when everybody else is sick of playing games, or, when it's not official family game time.
But then there's
like,
there's secret games happening in the other room. When did that start?
Yes. And so, because we don't want to be exclusive. And so it's like, well, when there's downtime or no one else wants to play a game right now, we'll sneak it in. So I'm very excited that I got it for my birthday, because then I just get to use it. And so the expansions just add on, like expansions do, just additional rules and strategy to the game. So that is the game I dominated when we played.
I was just going to say, Morgan, can I speak to the competitive spirit inside of you?
I'm very competitive.
Morgan, the competitive spirit. Did you enjoy dominating?
Oh my gosh. I did. It was very, I would say some of it was definitely chance, because it's one of those, like Tiny Towns is one of those games like similar to Catan. There's multiple ways to win. Like there's literally no right way to win, and it's a point-based game. So you're just trying to get the most points. You get points for everything. You just want to try to collect the most. So there's no right way to play it. There's no wrong way to play it. It's just a lot of it is just chance. And like you have to strategize as the game keeps going, and there's lots of things that aren't in your control. So I like games like that. I think those are fun.
One thing that I know is that, especially you said expansions, some of the big games that we in our friend group have found ourselves gravitating towards, you've told me about Tiny Towns now, but I'm thinking of Catan, which we've mentioned. There's all of the expansion packs for that. But then also Carcassonne.
Yes.
There are a ton of expansions for that, and that's another wonderful kind of, it's a group game, but everyone's kind of trying to get points however you can. But the expansions are what make it pretty fantastic, because then there's unlimited ways to win, and it can be played so many different ways for any different type of player. And very cool. Well, now Tiny Towns is on my radar.
Yes.
Wow.
I love it. Yeah. And I think that's why it's just like, it's a simple game. Everyone's playing on their own grid. So you're just minding your own business the whole game. Like, you don't know what everybody else is doing. I mean, you know what resources they're drawing, but that's kind of about it. And
it's secretive.
Yeah, so it's pretty secretive. And so at the end of the game, everybody tallies their own points. Or, whatever, you could switch boards and people tally depending on if you trust your group or not.
Did you ever do that with homework in grade school?
Oh, yeah. It's like elementary school. Okay, pass your paper to the left, and everybody...
The shame and embarrassment of like, no, well, I didn't read this chapter, so sorry, Sarah next to me. No. Those are all wrong, and now you know. Teachers not taking their work home and having the kids do it. I would feel that, being like, okay, here's my tiny town. Okay, here's my tiny town. How to do?
Yeah, tiny town.
Oh, wow.
No, so
new
we
board
just
games.
Trust everybody, tally up your own scores. And it's also technically a one-player game. I think it's 1 to 6 players, because you can just play by yourself, because it's just like a strategy puzzle game.
Yeah.
So that was what we played.
Brill.
And we had a really fun time. Yeah.
Did you get any other gifts, games for gifts or anything?
So the other game that we played, which wasn't technically a gift, I bought it, I think 2 years ago, because I thought maybe I could give it as a gift. But then it's only up to 4 players, which is very weird. And so I don't have a lot of people in my life to give that to. A lot of people we know have more than 4 people in their family or are couples, and it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, the family with more than 2 kids, it's like, well, choose what child you're going to have to sit out of the family game, parent.
Yes, exactly. But so this game, we opened it and we're just like, we're going to play it. So this is a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation game called the Twinkling Lights game. And I have become obsessed with this game because it is so easy and just delightful and kind of one of those like zero brainer kind of games.
Oh, yes. So, love those.
So this game it's a matching game, and So it's funny you mentioned Carcassonne
Mhm.
because parallel to that, if anyone is familiar with Carcassonne, is the Twinkling Lights game is a tile game where you're making the board with tiles as you play. So the round starts off with you draw a tile and you flip it over and you place it and connect it with the other tiles somehow. So all of the tiles are just these messed up wires with Christmas lights on them.
Oh, cute.
So
Okay.
it's the whole concept of like, Clark Griswold decorating his house in Christmas lights. If you haven't seen the movie Christmas Vacation, it's funny.
Spoilers, but
go ahead and watch it. Like,
he has a tough time getting his lights all plugged in
it
and
is a
functioning.
mess.
And he pulls the whole family out there to
Mhm.
plug in the lights, and they do the drum roll. You can tell that I watched this movie
Yep.
2 days ago. Do the drum roll,
Yep.
and then and it goes,
Nothing.
and nothing happens. What a fun game to
Yeah.
premise that about. So it's like collecting
Right.
the wires to then...
Yes. So everybody gets some sort of like matching cards. So you get 3 cards and each one of them has a pattern of lights on them. So
Okay.
you have to find that exact pattern of light bulbs or make it in these lights.
With
and
the
so
other
as
tiles.
you're laying tiles to try to get your matches, your opponent is laying tiles to try to get their matches. You don't know what cards you each have. And so it's basically first person to get all of their patterns and match them to the lights wins.
Oh,
So
fun.
again, very like low pressure game. It's a quick game. It was just fun. It was silly. And all the cards, have a quote from the movie on it.
Oh,
and
that's a nice touch.
it's just all themed to Christmas Vacation. So yeah, very, very cute. 2 different games. I would say Tiny Towns took a little bit more brain energy because
Mhm.
we were learning a brand new aspect of it and strategy. But this game, color matching, done.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. It's
That's
like
it.
it's a game that's just good brain suds. Like,
Yeah.
oh, my brain's just not going to have to show up too much for this game.
Correct. Yeah, it's like, okay, after we have some glasses of eggnog here, we're all sleepy from Christmas dinner.
In your moose antler glass.
Yep. Yep, your Wally World glass. So, yeah, those were the 2 new games that we played that I found very entertaining.
Sounds lovely and relaxing too.
Mhm.
When you find a game and you can just excavate all of the other things happening, and it's like, all right, guys, it's game time. We're gonna experience this, and it's gonna be fantastic, and no one's gonna have any concerns.
No,
Yeah, I like the idea of matching Christmas lights. That really sounds like a lovely time.
Mhm.
Wow. And you got that 2 years ago?
Yeah, I bought it 2 years ago, maybe 3. It might have been a game I bought at Gen Con. It might have been.
Wow.
Yeah, so
okay.
either 2 or 3 years ago.
Billion years ago.
Yeah.
I'm glad that came out of the closet and now it
Yeah.
exists in your repertoire of games to play.
I know.
Very cool.
And we will play it again because it was
great.
very fun. Well, anything else for opening ceremonies?
You guys, opening ceremonies. I'm imagining a lilac incense today.
Yes, we've had
wow.
to forego incense because of the pod. So just pretend, please have opening ceremonies, light your own incense each episode.
Or a
'cause
candle.
We won't be for the foreseeable future.
It turns
We
out
can't do that in the library.
the pod is in itself flammable. Just
Yes,
everything
very
in here,
flammable.
very
Mhm.
flammable. But no, that's it for opening ceremonies. I'm just excited to be back in it.
Me too. All right. Well, Sam, how about we take a quick stretch break here?
yes.
Give our listeners a little eardrum break, and we'll be right back with some more stories.
Stretch it out.
Hey, ABPOD listeners. Hope you're feeling groovy, and this episode is bringing a slice of joy to your Wednesday. Did you know you can follow AquariusBehavior.pod on Instagram? You can see weekly episode updates and behind-the-scene pictures of our podcast. You can also email the show at aquariusbehavior.pod@gmail.com to share your friendship stories or suggest a segment. Stay hydrated, buddies. Now, on with the show. All right, Sam, we're back. Everyone feeling loose and hydrated?
So stretched out, so hydrated. Oh,
Well-
I like that The ceiling is even fuzzy in here.
Oh,
That's
it is
nice. Oh, wow.
Yes. Ooh, and swishy.
Oh,
yay.
That is.
Well, welcome back to Aquarius Behavior, a Best Friends podcast. Samantha and I are in the pod right now.
Tiny pod.
Tiny pod. Yes. And so we invite you to hang out with us each Wednesday to take in some chaotic storytelling, low-key learning, and high-quality audio.
That's right.
That's the ABPOD promise right there. So, Sam, today we have a special segment called Podcast Chronicles, where we detail our adventures in podcasting and we reminisce about all the new skills we've learned.
So much low-key learning and high-key learning.
So much low-key learning. So, we've played around the last few weeks, and so 2023 is coming up, and we have a bunch of content laid out for folks, right? So, few of our segments just up and coming. I'm going to read them off in alphabetical order.
That's right, because we're organized here over at ABPOD.
We're organized here. It's the Aquarius way. So, first we've got Ages of Aquarius. Ooh, mysterious. So, in this segment, and this was your brainchild, which we started talking about, oh my gosh, months ago.
August. It was August, and we were on a walk.
Yes.
And we were yelling about things.
This has been a segment that has stayed with us through all of our brainstorming and whiteboarding. It has continued to develop to something we're actually very excited about. And so during this segment, we are it's basically going to be a quiz show, right? A quiz segment where our audience can play along with us. We're going to do 3 rounds of trivia about a famous Aquarius, either living or dead. Wow. It could be from way in the past. Who knows? But again, it's low-key learning. We're all going to do it together. It's going to be fun. For us, at least.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to have fun.
The whole point of this podcast is for us to have fun. And if you're coming along with us, ooh, XOXO, love you. Ages of Aquarius, I'm so excited for.
Yes. So that's one of our segments. Another one, which we've already done and our listeners are familiar with, is Best Buds.
Gotta love those houseplants.
Yep. Our houseplant spotlight, where we're each going to talk about one of our houseplants that is bringing us great joy, or maybe one that is challenging us. And
teaching us lessons.
Yeah, maybe one that's teaching us some lessons right now. Also that, because we are amateur houseplant enthusiasts. I don't know what you'd call us.
I like that. I would say,
what are we?
Houseplant enthusiast.
Yeah.
I would say I am enthusiastic about houseplants.
For sure am, too.
Yeah. Like, I might have an off day where I'm like, plants, but in general, enthusiasm, I would say, is a main feeling I have about plants. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not a failure. Overall. Shout out to Team Star Kid.
Okay, because I have a Star Kid bullet point to bring up in the future, so now that it's actually in the podcast.
Good. We can put a pin in that one.
We're going to put a pin in that one, Star Kid in general, because there's a few things that I need to know that I've asked you in the past, and we never finished that conversation.
Great. Put a pin in that one, Sam. Write it down.
You guys,
we're going to tune in for that, because we're going to come back to that one, right?
In the meantime, look up Star Kid on YouTube between now and when you're waiting for our next episode. After you've gone back and listened to all of our episodes at least twice, then look up Star Kid, watch a bunch of Star Kid, feel your feelings and live your life, and then we're going to talk about it in the future. So see you then for that.
Exactly. So bringing it back. 2023 content.
Yes.
Podcasting Chronicles.
Boom.
Welcome to our show where we go on lots of tangents. Mwah.
Yep.
So another one of our segments for 2023 is Book Nook, which, Samantha, this is another one of your ideas that we have ridden with since the very beginning. I am particularly passionate about this.
Stoked.
Like, I just kept thinking about it and I kept saying, dude, we got to make this part of the podcast somehow. I don't know how it fits in, but it's going to.
Well, and how else are we going to be able to enjoy books as adults?
Exactly.
Where are we finding time to do the book nooking? So now, dedicated podcast time, and we're going to do a lot of low-key learning too. So Book Nook's going to be fabulous.
Yes, because you and I both enjoy listening to audiobooks, but we don't seem to listen to the same audiobooks at the same time. But we're constantly telling each other about our fun audiobooks and like, hey, you should listen to this, you should listen to that. So this is going to be our way to actually plan our book reading
overlapping
together
interests, I
and
would
actually
say.
talk about them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we are, this year, Book Nook is going to be our episode on the last, I believe it's the 4th Wednesday of every month is when we have it scheduled. So if you're into books, you're going to be super, I hope, pumped on that day. And if you're not, then great. You don't have to listen to it. And you'll know that that's when it's coming out. But this year, since we have 12 Book Nook episodes, we are actually going to be reading a kind of a series. What are we going to read, Sam?
So you and I have been dedicated fans of this time period and the feelings of the 1800s. And so Jane Austen has always been an author that we have been like, boom, Pride and Prejudice, boom, Sense and Sensibility, boom, the other ones that I don't know. And that's why we're reading this series. So I think that it starts out, are we revealing the order that we're reading them in? Is this secrets? Or
I mean, it's not exactly secrets.
Okay, these
but
are our
like,
best buds, so we can tell them the secrets.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, we can say.
So Sense and Sensibility is first up, and I only saw that movie about 1.5 years ago with you for the first time.
Oh, great. Have you ever read the book?
I have
or
never
listened to it?
I've listened to it, but was I listening?
It was in your ear?
It was in my ear, but was I listening? So I'm really excited to dig into, there's movie adaptations of some of these books. There's just books that we need to gnaw through and just immerse ourselves in. So it's going to be very fancy. And is the word Victorian? I don't know who was queen or king. Is it Edwardian or Victorian?
That was the Victorian era.
Okay, great. Yep.
You're all right.
Really, really great costumes and production value. And so we're just going to dig into Jane Austen, and 4th Wednesday of every month, I think. Fourth Wednesday of every month. Circle it on your calendar, because we are going to be talking about all things Jane Austen and likely how things in the book relate to our own life and funny things that we picked up along the way. So also, if you want to read along with us, we'll probably have that information somewhere of what we're planning on reading between episodes and what have you. Maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe that'll be on the Instagram.
If you want to know, we'll post it. Comment. Let us know if you want to know.
Wow.
Yeah. We can post it. I got a whole schedule for the whole year.
Yeah, it's color-coded. It's beautiful.
It is color-coded. How many chapters are in each book? How many hours audio? Absolutely.
Yeah, would you give us a rundown of the 6, is it 6 books or 7 books?
It is 6 books. Yeah, really quick we can do that. So
let's hear it.
The first one we're reviewing them in order that they were published. And so first is Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, feelings.
Mansfield Park.
No idea what that's about.
Emma. Northanger Abbey, and Persuasion. Wow. I know what Mansfield Park and Persuasion are about. I have no idea what Northanger Abbey is. I will tell you, I've seen none of that. I've read none of it. I have no clue.
We're going to do some low-key learning on this podcast.
You and I, we're very familiar with early Austen.
Yes.
I would say Sense and Sensibility, Pride and Prejudice, like...
cornerstones. Cornerstones of our
critical
tier
hit.
movies. Yep, absolutely.
And Emma. We love Emma.
And I forget that that's an Austen book just because I experienced that movie earlier in my life and didn't know, just like with Clueless, how Clueless is based. Exactly. So it's like they take, a thing and turn it into a thing. And so I just had no idea that they were related and also that it was all Austen. So great. Glad we could tie Clueless into this episode a little bit, because how fun was Countdown, you guys?
I also didn't know that Clueless was based on Emma, which makes sense. I just loved that movie as a kid. And then growing up, I realized and I thought, well, that's why that movie is brilliant and a cult classic, because it's literally based on a classic.
We might need to put a pin in that and talk more about Clueless when we get to that point. But yeah, 3 of those books, I do not know a lot about what's in them. So low-key, you guys, book club, ABPOD book club. Woo! Book Nook every 4th Wednesday.
Ooh. And then our 4th segment, you already mentioned, folks have heard it, it's Countdown. Countdown. So we have other things. They're not all going to be duos and besties. There's going to be a lot of other things. So again, another fun game for us to play together. But listeners, please follow along. Play along with us. Grab your bestie. Grab a couple of them. You don't have to have just one. No, it's a tier.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a person.
Also, it can be your favorite animal in your home at the time. Because if you are also a
My
creepy
dog is
pod
one of my
listener
bestie.
like me, if you're listening in off hours where maybe it's not cool for you to call your friend at 4 a.m. Because you're up listening to podcasts, you can quietly play with your favorite animal. Or, I don't know, people are into fish and reptiles. And I just always think cats and
Stuffed
dogs.
animal.
But whatever thing gives you joy and you want a versus in Countdown, bring them along and play, because we're here to have fun and spread the fun for other people. Yeah.
We sure are.
Mm-hmm.
So those are our main 4 segments. And we are going to have occasional segments like Podcast Chronicles, which is what we're doing now, to give our audience just an update on what's going on with our podcast, talk about how we've grown. Really, it's selfish and mainly for us to have a record because we are very interested. And we had one of our listeners say, "Hey, I find that interesting, and that's cool to hear about what you guys learned." So that's what we're doing. And then, we'll have some low-key learning episodes sometimes, like our Blood Moon episode. We do have one coming up in January regarding Aquarius and astrology. So everybody can look forward to that.
Topics we've never discussed on this podcast before.
So that is the 2023 content. And what we have really put together after having fun playing podcast and doing a lot of just whiteboarding, trial and error, learning what we actually like to talk about consistently.
Because turns out you have to show up with a good attitude and be excited about what you're talking about the entire time you're podcasting. And you have to do this consistently.
Yeah.
So finding content that our audience enjoys and that we enjoy presenting to them has been a really fun, but also interesting trial and error process. And for editing, Samantha.
Let's talk about editing, because that's the next thing here. We got to talk about editing, because the 2023 Sound Sam, like, a part of the ABPOD promise is high quality audio, and you have been delivering on that promise. So please talk to us about audio and your audio journey here.
So, Pod Samantha speaking directly to editing Samantha, how much I enjoy verbally giving myself notes during podcasts. So, with the pod, when we first started, Samantha said, I have a laptop. Let's buy some microphones. Let's just plug those USBs right into the back of the computer. Let's download our voice recording program and press record and go. And you guys, that was like the first 4 episodes of this podcast. So if you've heard those and you're still listening, thank you. We love you so much.
Thank you.
It's a big deal to, one, have the emotional resources, energies, and spoons to actually get out of our homes, drive for a little bit, and put on clothes and see real people and stand in a library in the pod, where it's always summer in the pod. But looking back to where we were recording in your room, which we're calling the Pod Lounge, we've recorded in your closet. We have recorded in my office level. We have recorded, am I missing a place?
We did record outside. On your deck.
Yep, outside. That is the other place.
For Blood Moon. Yep.
Blood Moon. Just fond memories. So getting that audio, I actually am very thankful for how much I had to scrub that audio, because it taught me a lot of things. It taught me a lot of things about noise reduction. It taught me a lot of things about echoing and how to equalize things and make our voices just sound nice. So we have a lot of nice things to say, but if our voices don't sound nice into people's ears, they're not going to listen to us. And it turns out we want to hang out with people
listen to us
on the internet. It's hard to go back to those first episodes now that we've gotten just the pod. But yeah, it's been really fun for editing Samantha to put on our editing Samantha hat and just turn on our voices. And it's so clear. I barely had to scrub things last time. And so it was just, editing has now turned into a joy, because I understand how to not make it sound like garbage. And now I'm not worried that I'm going to accidentally delete the whole project in the middle of the project, which was a lot of the concern at the beginning of like, all right, Samantha, now we got to do this. Don't press that one part on the audio that just deletes the track. And then it's like, bye. So it's a level of confidence that has been felt. And when you are creating such fantastic content for me to show up and play with, and for us to just share stories and everything, it's just so enjoyable to listen back to our stuff relive these moments because I really enjoy podcasting Chronicles because I don't remember all of the fist shaking that I've done the last couple months because we've been playing since August when things really started kicking off and we were doing our first episode. That was maybe our first or second recording one. And I just loved the authenticity of those moments because that's when we really were playing podcast. But now, as I was mentioning earlier, now it feels like we're doing a real thing. Like now we're standing in a sound booth and now it's like actual stuff. And so I'm really excited to see where our pod's going to go from here just because now we foundationally sound good. Mm-hmm. It's only up from here, Morgan.
It's only up from here.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. And because I have been watching you go on your editing journey, as a third party objective observer. And there has been a lot of efforts put into that, a lot of efforts. Because when we started talking about it 4 months ago about doing a podcast, one of the first things I said to you was, I cannot learn audio. I'm just not interested right now. I don't have the brain space and the capacity for that. I spend all day on a computer just in my work day. I'm like, that's not fun for me. And so we originally thought about pulling in a third person to just do our editing.
Yeah.
And just, make it smooth, make it pretty, all that stuff. We played around with that idea and turns out you found the editing adventure super fun.
Yeah.
And interesting.
I didn't know that I was going to feel that way.
Yeah.
We originally, I think that we yelled maybe once in our first episode, oh, Joel, cut that out, because Joel was going to be doing our audio. But then when I started listening to it, I realized that I had opinions about how we sounded, what I wanted cut out, and what I wanted kept in, because there are some beautiful imperfections in our first couple episodes that I really stand by the fact that could have easily just cut a lot of those things out. But it's been really cool noticing that editing is actually a fun thing, because I had no idea until 3.5 months ago that it was like, oh, this is fun. And I didn't know. So that's also like the adult learning. Like I've learned a new skill, you guys, as an adult, as a woman.
Put that on your CV.
Mid-30s, I've learned a new skill, and that is exciting. Who knew playing podcast would bring in all of these new talents? And it's been such a joy too, because you have brought such fun content, because that was what I was not interested in doing, is making the mini games, doing the research. I love how we have just structured this, and audience, let us know if you guys think that this is cute too. But I love how we've structured our podcast, because we're playing games, we're having fun, we're having cute chats, and it's just been such a nice mix of what both of our strengths have been. And that's been really exciting to notice as well. So it's like, I can do the editing. I can do the editing for ABPOD.
I will learn this.
I will learn this. Yeah, it's been lovely. And now upgraded into our padded room.
I know. Yes. And this audio does sound way better. So
you're welcome.
This is what it should sound like moving forward. It's only up from here, folks.
Did we shout out our listener that gave us the idea for the library? One of our listeners
did, yeah, but we can shout him out again. Becky, thank you, Becky.
Brilliant, Becky. Thank you so much for the idea, because the pod in the library has been lovely.
All right, so one thing that I want to collectively talk about before we end our segment here is why exactly we are starting a podcast, because I know we've talked about this, and I think, at least for me, a lot of my reasons are personal, and so I know for me, I've had to think about this. I wanted to start a podcast originally because I plainly just needed a hobby. I needed a hobby. I needed something to be excited about, something that could help me be creative. And so I've always thought that we are cute.
We're cute.
I mean, because you're my best friend. And so I'm always like, well, I love talking to my best friend. That's super fun. And I think we talk about interesting things. I think it's fun.
I am having a good time.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where this came about. And also it was the opportunity to learn new skills. And so I, by trade, am a project and program manager. And so I have a lot of skills that I use for my job. That's a lot of clickety-clackety tasks. I'm, setting up programs, building project plans, making step-by-steps, breaking things down so I can teach people and help people learn and cover multiple tasks. And so for me, it was nice to be able to have that skill set. And so I think it helped us kind of move forward.
Yes.
You also are... You do a lot of that in your own day as well because you're managing yourself. And so I felt because we both had, those skill sets and we both have worked together previously in the before times, like
before times.
many decade ago, almost.
Many decade ago.
many 1,000 years ago. Seems like that sometimes.
Oh my goodness.
But I felt like from an administrative standpoint, those skills helped us get to this point.
Absolutely.
Because there was a lot of planning. There are a lot of little tasks. And, the recording is the fun part for me and making content is really fun. And so if you've got ideas and we get to brain blast together and whiteboard, then I have a lot of fun just taking those ideas and
turning them into
our reality, And so those were the things for me and why I wanted to start a podcast. Mm-hmm. I needed a hobby. I needed a creative outlet, and I just wanted to learn some stuff.
I forgot how fun learning was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as an adult, it's like, okay, so I have all my things now. What's the new and exciting or different thing that we're adding to the world? Mm-hmm. And it turns out podcasting was the piece that was missing. We keep on saying like, wow, how is this just like really scratching all the different itches for us?
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. So Sam, what about you? What are the reasons that you've identified that you wanted to podcast?
A few
Other
things.
than the fact that I was like, Sam, we're going to start a podcast.
We're going to start a podcast.
Ta-da!
I really need to make this happen. And do you want to come with me? And yes. So can we talk for a moment about originally our podcast? We didn't know what it was going to be. Actually, I'm going to say something first. Rewind. I've always known that I wanted to project with you in some capacity because 1,000 years ago when we worked together, we were pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. And then we have best friends for years and years and years, and we're pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. We've done activities and things where we actually had to show up and work and do things. I'm pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. I knew that I wanted to do something, and I just didn't know what media it would be. Mm-hmm. Originally, I thought YouTube's, and then I said, ooh, I hate the idea of my face on the internet. I don't need videos out there of me and my best friend doing shenanigans because that corner of the market's already taken. And the content of editing videos, turns out I'm a little bit too much of a perfectionist for video editing, which is why audio editing is just perfect. But this was not always going to be a best friends podcast. Mm-hmm. It has gone through a few levels of what is this going to be? And we recorded a couple episodes with our overall theme that we thought we were going to move forward with. Can I share a little bit about what we thought the before time was going to be? Yeah,
because there was about 3 months of planning before we released and launched our very first episode on December 6th.
Yeah.
There was a
3 months. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
what were some of the other themes that we were brainstorming?
So we were knowing that we wanted to have something that was conversational.
Or wait, do we want to continue? Because these may be
they're secrets.
Things for later that we want to make other branched podcasts off of. This is just me talking to our future selves.
Editing Samantha.
I just want to throw that out there.
I'm gonna say then we're gonna veil it in secrets.
Okay.
Some of our earlier thoughts we love so much, we're going to turn them into something else for you guys. Mm-hmm. Because our original podcast ideas were really fun. Mm-hmm. But a weekly, and when you find out what the subject was, you'll understand why. A weekly stamina of meeting the requirements of research for the research podcast that we wanted to have and thought we could do, we would need a team behind us of just detail work to really get the details that we wanted to of that specific topic. So there were a lot of fun ideas that we threw around at the beginning, and eventually we landed on what are the things that we love talking about with each other. And I bet there are other best friends out there that would enjoy chatting/listening to us talk about these things. Because we're just out here looking to send some joy and happiness into the world, some love and abundance. And as soon as we landed on a podcast idea where it's like, okay, this is sustainable, I'm going to show up and be interested in talking about the things. I love telling funny little stories and recognizing the cool, abundant things that are happening in our world. And so this podcast just kind of transformed into that. And now that we're not just hitting record and rambling, which is our first whole episode. You guys, we just turned on, we didn't have an agenda. Now we have agendas, but we didn't have an agenda and we just talked. And that is the beautiful magic of that first episode. But now we realize we need to be a little bit more organized, a little bit more thoughtful in the content that we're presenting and have that consistency so that our listeners know, oh, you guys, it's the 4th Wednesday of the month. It's time for Book Nook. So those are some of the secrets that were happening in the before time, and look for some bonus content in the future. It's in my computer. The files are in the computer.
They're in the computer.
They're in the computer. Yeah. So I thought that it was going to be video. Turns out it's audio. Turns out it's podcasting. And I'm so excited we're projecting together.
Yes.
So we have very complementary skills.
Yeah. Well, and in general, like back to what you were saying, a lot of our ideas in the beginning, which we're going to keep secret because some of them turn into segments that we're doing. Like Book Nook was one of them where we're like, hey, we could just do a whole podcast where we read books. And then we realized, well, we're not that much of avid readers where we could do a weekly book podcast.
I have other podcasts I need to keep up with and like my annual things. Yep.
Right. And so, so there was that. There were some specific things we're interested in where we thought, oh my gosh, let's make a very specific podcast only about that. And it just turns out we're not the type of people who are going to research and write, 3-page essays every single week.
Also focusing on one topic. If you have been listening to this podcast, maybe not our strong point.
Yes.
And we are embracing our beautiful imperfections and things that we know about ourselves.
Correct.
To make this entertaining and joyous.
Yep.
So little things in our pockets.
That's where Aquarius behavior was then developed, which to your point just came out of us looking at a lot of very specific topics, but realizing we actually just have a lot of friendship interests. And so we want to make a podcast that can cover all of those things without seeming totally random and wandering and directionless. Not all who wander are lost, J.R.R. Tolkien. And so that's kind of, how our podcast is now, is we're here for the chaotic storytelling, low-key learning, high-quality audio, and that's the ABPOD promise.
That's right. Yep. And fire safety.
This is not a fire safety podcast. Well, Samantha, we got to wrap this up. Thank you to our listeners. We want to do a big shout out to you all because this is a Podcast Chronicles episode. We want to let you know this is the first 3 weeks of our show. We published our first episode on December 6th, 2022. We've had 6 episodes released, 128 downloads, and we have 12 Instagram followers. So thank you to all of you out there listening, participating with us. We are super excited to be here with you every Wednesday. Wishing you love and abundance until next week, friends. Bye.